Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah. Okay, so as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and like the video. We can't share it because it's members only. All right, so hello, Claudette, Juju, Silent D, that Crazy Beach Aries, Andrea. All right, Mr. Hotel, I know you're in here. Pearly, that Crazy Beach Aries, Nessa G, Claudette. Okay, Andrea, Terry Hitton's in the house. All right, Miss Cookie, Juju. Okay, so shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned in. So let's get ready to get into it. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. Today we're going to be talking about Christ consciousness, vesica, piscis, and spiritual integration. We're going to touch on that briefly, but I'll be doing a more in-depth look into spiritual integration later on this week. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this PowerPoint. Hey, Curly Girl. All right, here we go. Likes up, everyone. Please get the likes up. Y'all know they have Queen Shadow Band. Pay attention. All right, Christ consciousness, vesica, piscis, and spiritual integration, or vesica, piscis. All right, here we go. What does Christ consciousness mean? And how does it relate in a direct and intimate way to us on our spiritual awakening journeys? This is what you should be asking yourself. Keep in mind that these questions, the things that I'm discussing on this presentation, will be used for the trivia on Friday. All right, so please take notes. Christ consciousness is a mystical term that refers to a spirituality or a spiritually evolved state of being. Okay, that's what Christ consciousness is. It is a mystical term that refers to a spiritually evolved state of being. Like when you raise the Kundalini energy or the Christ within energy, when you rise into your higher self, you are then in your Christ consciousness. Okay? The term Christ consciousness, therefore, refers to the embodiment of love, devotion, and courage in our lives, raising your level of consciousness and rising into your higher self. So how is Christ consciousness related to spiritual awakening? Well, simply put, Christ consciousness is another phrase for self-realization, oneness, samadhi, nirvana, or spiritual enlightenment. Now, spiritual practices allow us to raise the Christ consciousness. We perform meaningful rituals that we engage in, which move us past the fog of the mind and ego into the realm of soul and spirit. Okay, pay attention. This is why we perform spiritual practices or engage in spiritual practices and even perform meaningful rituals. Now, you may be thinking of witchcraft, black magic, something dark and sinister when you think of rituals. All right. None of you should, because you should all know better by now. But what I'm talking about are people who are not spiritually in tune, people who are not, do not understand spirituality. When they hear the word ritual, they may automatically think of something satanic. Okay. And that's not the case, because spiritual, if you look at the word spiritual, it has the word ritual inside of it. Okay, so I want you all to pay attention to that. Now, I'm going to stop the share briefly for a moment because I'm having trouble with this PowerPoint. It's showing that it's not responding. So I'm going to stop the share for a minute. We'll go back to it. But at the end of the day, everyone in here now, specifically you all, because you're members of the channel, you don't just pop in every now and then. You actually have memberships. So I'm sure that you know and understand the difference, right? Now, with that all being said, Christ consciousness, this is our spiritual awakening. This is how you know that you've become spiritually awakened. When you rise into a higher level of consciousness and you start better understanding spiritual things and also realizing that spirituality and religion are not the same thing, because a lot of people think they are, but they're absolutely something different. You could be religious and not have a clue about spirituality. You could not know anything about raising levels of consciousness, evolving, stepping out of the matrix, Okay, you may not know that you're a divine being, that you're a spiritual being living a human existence. You may not understand that when you leave here, you return to the spiritual realm from whence you came, that there is something called reincarnation that absolutely exists. You may not understand those things. People who don't, are not spiritually in tune, they mistake reality, religious beliefs with spirituality, and they're absolutely not the same. Okay, in fact, they're quite different. So, with that all being said, hold on, beloveds. Okay, I'm still waiting for this program to respond. Okay, wig ain't listening, child. She wiggy pop on. You all are something else. Okay, so listen, while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to refresh, I'm going to show you a couple of videos. Now, these are some videos from my friends on Spiritual TikTok and their thoughts on on Christ consciousness. And some people have different definitions of how they explain things. Many people have very similar thoughts on how they explain it. So I'm going to show you two videos on that. So let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please get the likes.
Christ consciousness. If I could sum up every single time I've been attacked by demonic spirits, it always had to do with Christ consciousness and knowing the true one God. And the flies are in on it. I'm not joking. When I go to make these videos, they come from out of nowhere in like hordes. You can't kill enough of them. And yes, I kill them, and no, I don't feel bad because they're not real. There's the one behind, right there. Oh, see him? See him? They're not real. They are emanations of dark magic, which people send at me all the time. The other day, I got a message in my TikTok DMs, and the person threatened to send a djinn to me that would turn my life upside down. Guess what, sweetheart? No, you can't. I've been practicing magic since I was a babe, okay? I'm a literal super sorcerer. A young Dumbledore. But just the same, they still do it. Someone did voodoo on me a month ago, and they do it like all the time. I was in San Diego a couple of years ago. A friend confided in me later on with this kid I kept having trouble with. He said, yeah, he was doing black magic on you. I never bothered this kid. I never did anything to him. But I did mention the importance of living a righteous life, believing and following God, and letting the Spirit of Christ move through you to become a superhuman. I was literally having that conversation when that kid all of a sudden snapped and turned into a different person, started studying Baal, asking me about it, and then he would do weird hand signals and say, hey, do you know what this means? And I knew he was trying to cast spells on me. It'd take me hours to go through every single strange supernatural situation I've ever gone through involving demonic spirits. But I can tell you that every single time it was always connected to me teaching people what Christ taught everyone thousands of years ago about how to become just like him. That's because the big secret, the mystery of all the ages, is that we are in fact superhuman, and we've simply been tricked and poisoned and oppressed to forgetting that fact. God made us in his image. We are creators, we are sorcerers, we are king and queen magicians, and it's about time we all started acting like it. One time I told my friend that he was the second coming of Christ because he'd been complaining about the world and how much it sucked, and I was like, bro, it's gotta be you. If you see all the problems in the world and you want them to change, man in the mirror, buddy, you gotta be the Gandhi or the Christ or the Buddha. A demon said, I will cut out your tongue. So I told my friend, that's the most important thing I've ever said to you. And then it hit me right here in the solar plexus, the genie. My hands went ice cold. Couldn't get them hot no matter how long I stood in front of the wood stove. They are terrified of us figuring this out.
Okay, so that was very interesting. He talked about someone trying to send things at him, and people absolutely can do those things. And speaking about the flies, well, when you all of a sudden, for no explanation, no windows and doors are open, there's no rotting food lying about and things like that, and all of a sudden you see lots and lots of flies. Well, that is clearly a sign of demonic infestation somewhere, or someone trying to do dark magic on you, black magic on you, just like he said. This is absolutely true. Okay, I had something similar happen to me once. And then also, he said that someone was threatening to send a jinn onto him to turn his life upside down. Well, this is what wicked people will do. These people who practice the dark arts and deal in dark magic, and they worship Satan, Moloch, Baphomet, and they don't really care to to have any type of communication or knowledge of God, of the Most High. They will counter you or try to counter you by sending these things to you. When I was on Facebook, there actually was a woman who threatened to send demons to me. There was actually a few, but this specific woman was doing so because she didn't like that I was breaking down the allegories in the Bible and explaining them in depth. She didn't like the fact that I was teaching esoteric knowledge. And she told me that I was going to see demons and all this crazy stuff. Like, girl, sit down somewhere. I don't worry about that. That's what I don't do. Okay, hey, Aeon. So I just want you all to pay attention. But here's another video. Like, sub, everybody.
A lot of people aren't ready for this conversation. Their cognitive dissonance isn't going to allow them to listen, but it would behoove you to put it aside and hear me out. Christ consciousness is consciousness of the soul. Certain religious groups will come to your door and tell you that only 144,000 people will go to heaven and live eternally as spirit beings with God. But that's actually a frequency. It pertains to how energy climbs up the 33 vertebrae, aka Jacob's ladder, until it hits the 12 cranial nerves. Do you see the correlation? 33 as the year scholars would say Yahshua was crucified, 12 cranial nerves as in the disciples who followed him in his journey. It's the consciousness of humanity that has fallen. We are the light beings that have fallen from grace. Low frequency light becomes matter. High frequency becomes light. If you continue to operate in a lower vibration, aka your lower chakras, you will continue to sin. In order to raise your vibrational frequency, you have to do it through love. The Law of One teaches that Yahshua operates from the fourth density, which is the fourth chakra, the heart. In John 14-6, Jesus says, "No one comes through my Father except through me." Scriptures are nothing but parables on how Kundalini energy rises within you. The only way to escape the veil is to raise your vibrational frequency. Anyways, I'm writing a book that touches on some of this. Follow me on here because I don't know how much longer I'll be posting on here.
Okay, so both two interesting viewpoints on that. Both two interesting viewpoints. Queen, he said Queen's word behoove you. Yes, I noticed that. I thought it was hilarious. And so anyway, with that all being said, so listen, I want you all to pay attention. Now, one's in the chat. How many of you, Terry Hinsick, wow, Queen, I didn't know it didn't work. Yeah. Okay, so how many of you, one's in the chat, if you have been experiencing more intuitiveness, if you have been experiencing angel numbers, seeing them on a regular or other signs, or experiencing synchronicity? One's in the chat. If you have been experiencing any of these things since you started on your spiritual journey. If you have started noticing these things. One's in the chat. Aeon says yes. Okay, a lot of ones in the chat. So you all remember I told you the other day when I talked to you about the writing on the wall, and I did that video. The next day I saw that movie Nefarious, and the guy said the same thing in the movie that I said. I thought that was very interesting. That was clearly synchronicity. Okay, what are the chances of someone saying the exact same term that I said? And it was in Latin, not even in English. Okay, so pay attention to things like that. The movie not only was called Nefarious, which is a word I say all the time, and you all know that. I've literally popularized that word, and then the movie's called Nefarious, and then they said the phrase that I said the day before. That's very interesting. Okay, so pay attention to those type of things. Okay, so Houston, we have a problem. Hey, Orange Moon. Okay, we watched Nefarious last night. Hold on, the Crazy Bitch Aries says. So we watched the Nefarious last night, Queen, because you said it. Because you said it was crazy. Yeah, it was good, right? Mr. Hotel said clearly nefarious. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to tell you all something that's not looking good with this PowerPoint. I just want to let you all know because the PowerPoint is still not responding. Now, I could close the program and start it over, but I'm afraid to because unfortunately, I don't know how I did this. I guess because I was in a rush. I forgot. Hey, Ray Williams, I forgot to save the PowerPoint like I normally do. I normally save it to the computer before I even start. Today, I absolutely forgot. And I'm going to see if I close it out, it may not come back up. Hey, Eileen, it may not come back up if I close it out. I'm nervous. Hold on. Let me see what I can do here. Let me see if I can try to get it back working. Everyone, bear with me for just a moment. Terry Hinn said, read us the scripture, Queen. That's spiritual. Not read the scripture. Okay, everybody said take your time. I can do that, but I really want you all to see this PowerPoint. I don't know how I forgot to. I'm so bad at myself that I forgot to save this time. And I guarantee you, if I click off of here, if I just close out, it's probably absolutely going to delete it. Of all the times not to save this. Let me see something here. Okay, so I'm gonna try to figure this out real quick. But while I'm doing that, I'm just gonna go to my meditation channel and let you all listen to some of the sounds on there on the universal language. It looks like it's trying to load. Looks like it's trying to load. Hold on, I know what I'll do. Hold on. I'm finding something for you all to look at real quick while I work on this. let you all. I'm gonna let you all listen to Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Okay, talking about people who don't pray. Hold on, I'm gonna share the screen real quick while I'm working on this. Here we go. Okay. Wait a second. Okay, did you all see that video that I was just showing you all? One's in the chat. Did you all just see that video? I got the PowerPoint back up, but did you all just see the video that I was trying to share? Because I just saw something that said the screen wasn't sharing. Did you all see it? Yes or no? Once, if you saw the video that I just showed, you all did see it? Okay, because I had a message on here saying that it wasn't showing. Okay. That Crazy Bitch Era said no. Okay, so I guess you all couldn't see it. Well, I'm sorry. That whole time, I thought you all were watching the video. I just realized that it wasn't sharing. Okay. Well, anyway, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Pay attention. Okay, we're going back to the PowerPoint. Like sub, everyone, please like and share. Hopefully I remember where I was. Okay, Nessie X. Okay, so here we go. Now, sorry for the inconvenience, beloveds, and I did save the PowerPoint, so if I have any more trouble, I'll be able to quickly recover it, okay? Now, Christ consciousness is a mystical term that refers to a spiritually evolved state of being. The term Christ consciousness, therefore, refers to the embodiment of love, devotion, and courage in our lives, raising our level of consciousness and rising into our higher self. Okay, wait a minute. I was past all of this. Hold on. Let me go back to the last slide that I was on. This was the last slide. Spiritual practices allow us to raise the Christ consciousness. We perform meaningful rituals that we engage in, which move us past the fog of the mind and ego into the realm of soul and spirit. Notice the word spiritual has the entire word ritual at the end. Every race, culture, and period of history that we've utilized or have utilized spiritual practices. Okay, no matter what race or religion, all of these ancient civilizations, old and new, have utilized spiritual practices. Now, from the afterlife rituals performed by the dead back in the Paleolithic area, all the way to the modern use of meditation apps and the cross-cultural use of mala beads for chanting and prayer. All of these things are rituals. When you go to church and they do communion where they, eat the crackers and say that's the blood of Jesus and drink the wine or grape juice and say that's eat the crackers and say that's the flesh of Jesus, and then they drink the grape juice or the wine and say that's the blood of Jesus. That's a ritual. Okay, and to me, that's a satanic ritual. That's just my opinion, because why would you be simulating cannibalism, which is an abomination unto the Most High? You're not supposed to eat other people. So why would they think? That's nowhere in the Bible either. That's nowhere in the Bible where they tell you to mimic that you're eating the flesh of Jesus and drinking his blood. Who made that up? Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. It clearly sounds nefarious when you really, really think about it. Now, the purpose of spiritual practices. Well, when we engage in spiritual practices, we're stepping out of identification with thought and form and into the realm of eternal now or present moment, which is the only moment in which we're actually truly alive. Now, the purpose of spiritual practices is to deconstruct our carefully constructed consensus reality so that we can recover the reality that lies beneath or beyond all signs and symbols. This is what George Furson, a scholar, said. Now, spiritual practices, therefore, are subversive and liberating in nature, acting as a reset button to the automation like pull of the ego self that we all drag around every day. Through our spiritual practice, we open a gateway to eternity. Now, many people who come to spiritual practices are frightened by their feelings. They hope meditation will help them to transcend the messiness of the world and leave them invulnerable to difficult feelings. But this is a false transcendence, a denial of life. It is fear masquerading as wisdom. This is what another scholar by the name of Jack Kornfield said. Fear masquerading as wisdom. Now, it's tempting to think that doing something like saying a prayer is all we need to find a sense of true well-being. But the reality is that we are both human and divine. And I want you to pay attention. It's very important when they say we're both human and divine, because guess who else was both human and divine in the Bible? Well, Jesus. Jesus was born of a woman, flesh and blood, right? Of a virgin woman in the Bible, according to the story. But also was the Son of God. So Jesus was both human and divine. Now, we are carnal mammals ruled by an overdeveloped prefrontal cortex and unique manifestations of eternal and ever-present spirit. Spiritual practices aren't all we need to raise the Christ consciousness, though, because we also need psychological development, growth, integration, and healing. That's just like when I was telling you all last week, I believe it was, when I was saying that when you are manifesting or trying to practice the art of manifestation and you're in a very low vibrational mindset and you have low vibrational energy, and you have not been thinking positively and acting and living a positive lifestyle for the, previously before you start trying to do this. And I don't mean your whole life. I mean like right before you decide to start trying to practice manifestation. If you've been low vibrational, pessimistic rather than optimistic, you're not going to manifest anything but more of what you already have, which is negativity. Okay, things that are absolutely not positive. You have to be in a positive mindset. So with that all being said, when you're trying to raise into your Christ consciousness, It's not just spiritual practices that you need, because I can give you spiritual teachings and you can, do the spiritual practices. But what if you're still in a pessimistic mindset and you're not truly believing in the practices that you're doing, and you're not really, thinking that you can evolve and rise into your higher self? Well, that's just null and void. That's not going to work. That's just a waste of your time and, quite frankly, mine. So trying to use spirituality to cover up our feelings of shame, anger, grief, and fears is to commit what is known as spiritual bypass. Okay, a sophisticated feel-good form of avoidance with a sparkly spiritual exterior that doesn't solve our suffering deep down. Isn't that what it sounds like they do to us here in the Divided Snakes? What they do to people who look like me in the Divided Snakes, right? They cover up their shame, their anger, and their grief. Well, I won't say they had grief, but I will say they cover up their anger and their shame for the low down, dirty, nefarious things that they did in the past, in their history, during slavery, during Jim Crow, and even now. They try to cover that up and hide it because they're embarrassed of it, because they're ashamed. They don't want the world to see them as who they really are. And by they, I mean the people that, uphold this system of wanton supremacy, the ones whose ancestors did all these low down, dirty, nefarious things, and some of them continue to do the same. All right, but they don't want to talk about it. The funny thing to me is that they don't want to stop doing these things, but they just want us to stop talking about it. So let's not talk about CRT, critical race theory, right? Let's just ignore it, okay? This is almost like a spiritual bypass when they're doing that, because this is absolutely who and what they are and what they have done. Many of them, not all. But at the end of the day, let's just brush over that. Let's just avoid it. Okay? Let's just leave that somewhere so we don't have to talk about it and nobody can attach a label to us. That's how they behave. Well, that's the same thing as spiritual bypass. Very similar to it anyway. In fact, spiritual bypassing makes us feel worse in the long term because it's suppressing our pain, which feeds the shadow self within us that will eventually rear its head and cause chaos in our lives, okay, through addiction, self-sabotage, explosions of anger, and even worse. This is what I keep telling you all about. You cannot hide your emotions and keep them tucked away forever. You have to face things, even the traumas that you've gone through, the things that make you feel insecure, and all of those things that your ego doesn't want to face and bring to the forefront. You have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to make the situation worse. Like I told you before, one of these days you'll just up and snap. Now, Jesus came to exemplify the divinity of every single human being and to give the human race the outrageous possibility of a direct divine relation with God, a direct Gnostic ecstasy, which would also be an ecstasy of service and justice. This is what scholar James Harvey said. Now, the sublime paradox of Jesus, I want to point out here, is that he is both human and divine, just like us. Okay, as St. Paul the Apostle writes about Jesus, he said, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men." That's in Philippians, the 2nd chapter, 5 through 11th verses. Perhaps the most dominant symbol associated with Jesus is the cross on which he was crucified. This is an image with profound significance to Jesus's message, as it represents a union of opposites. Or in other words, the Hermes Trismegistus, a man purported to walk the earth even before the biblical Moses, as above, so below, as within, so without. Now you can see that the vertical line of the cross represents the axiom, as above, so below, and the horizontal line meaning as within, so without. Now in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus mirrors these words by saying, "Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known and you will realize that you are the children of the Father." Symbolisms of vesica piscis. I don't know why I put Pisces right here. It's piscis and Jesus. Now, I did the same thing right here. Hold on, let me correct this real quick. Another image that theologian and author Megan Watterson comments is the shape that surrounds Christ in most images and icons of him, and that is the vesica piscis. Now, you see this symbol right here. I want you all to pay attention, because for those of you who have ever seen people driving around town with a fish on the back of their vehicle, that represents Jesus, who was born in the age of Pisces. The word piscis is very similar to the word Pisces, okay? And also the term viscous piscis has something to do with fish. So you see this right here in the middle. This is sacred geometry also, by the way. Now you see this right here in the middle. That's the shape that you see on people's cars. It looks like a fish. Okay, please pay attention. Now, the vesica piscis is a Latin word, and when literally translated, it means the vessel of the fish. It is derived from taking two circles of equal diameters and overlaying them in such a way that their circumferences touch each other's epicenters. And as you can see right here, they have lots of designs, architecture, paintings, and all of that with this sacred geometry, right? Within the paintings, if you can see that, see the center, and then look at this shape right here. It almost looks like an eyeball if you look at the outer shape, and then right here in the middle, that almost looks like an eyeball. This right here, almond shaped. All of these have the same shape, okay? The vesica piscis. Now, the intersectional area is also known or called the mandorla, which is an Italian word for little almond, and it looks like the shape of an almond. And here you see it right here. Again, such an iconic religious symbol is also representative of the union of opposites, or the hieros gamos, sacred marriage between the heart and mind, male and female, light and dark, and essentially all duality. Now, these two overlapping circles once again express the human and divine paradoxical nature of Jesus, therefore revealing a central mystery of his message: spiritual integration. Now, in the context of the spiritual journey, spiritual integration is all about living the discoveries and gifts you've attained rather than thinking about them. It's easy to be philosophical and think deep thoughts, but to embody what you've realized is a whole other matter. Now, I want you to pay attention to that, because this is very true. See, this is why I tell you the things that I'm teaching you on this channel and in these presentations, you should be actively using them, incorporating them into your daily life. Don't just sit back and ponder and think about the things that I'm saying. Don't just sit here and, just dwell on it. Actively use these things. You have to integrate these things into your life, or otherwise it's just useless. I mean, sitting there thinking about it's not going to make anything happen. You have to think about it, but also use it at the same time. Now, therefore, in essence, spiritual integration is a movement from the head to the heart and from conceptual to practical. It is self-actualization. Okay, instead of just talking, reading, and hearing about a certain topic, you become it and unify it with your daily life. Don't just talk about, think about positive self-talk. Actually do it. Speak positively to yourself when you have conversations with yourself. Speak positively. Say positive affirmations. Don't just think about it. Do it. Now, in the context of the spiritual journey, spiritual integration is all about living the discoveries and gifts you've obtained rather than just thinking about them. I think I read this before already. It's easy to be philosophical and think deep thoughts, but to embody what you've realized is a whole other matter. Therefore, in essence, Spiritual integration is a movement from the head and heart, from conceptual to practical. It is self-actualization instead of talking. Yeah, I read that whole thing already. But anyway, that's just to reiterate it again. Now, according to psychotherapist Robert A. Johnson, to integrate a mental state is to successfully absorb it, meaning you can now move on to other matters without suffering the energy drain that comes from unfinished business. Okay, you know how you procrastinate, or you don't do what you're supposed to do, or you don't correctly prioritize, and you go and do something else, and then you just feel like you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and now you're feeling bad and low vibrational. This is what psychotherapist Robert A. Johnson says. Okay, you have to integrate these things into the mental and successfully absorb them. Okay, don't just put them in the back of your mind, but you need to literally not just what's the word I'm looking for? Don't just memorize the things that I'm telling you, because see, when you memorize things, it's only temporarily stored in the brain. Okay, you memorize something and you'll just remember it for a time, but you actually need to be learning things, studying things. Study to show thyself approved is what it says in the Bible. You have to actively be learning these things, because when you learn something, now you know it. When you think about it later, you can still recall it. But if you memorize something, well, you may have it for a short time, but then if I come and ask you a year later, or someone asks you 6 months down the line, you may not even remember, because you only memorized it. Remember how some of us in school, we would only memorize answers for a test, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, we didn't even know any of the answers. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about not doing. Make things permanently embedded in your mind, in your psyche, not temporarily, when it comes to practicing your spiritual integration. In this sense, integration helps us to mentally complete our discoveries so that they're no longer a source of fixation. This is yet another benefit of integration. It clears space in our minds, allowing new and deeper discoveries to emerge. Christ consciousness is a beautiful and multi-layered term that refers to divine love, spiritual integration, and the process of heart awakening, a form of illumination and transformation that happens at deeper levels of spiritual awakenings. Now, wherever you are on your spiritual path, and whatever relationship you have with more traditional forms of spiritual practices, there is a metaphysical core at the root of every tradition that points to the oneness underlying all existence. Christ consciousness is that unifying force of the sacred heart that we all have access to if only we are open. It is an expression of our true nature and of our divine selves. Laverne says, I have affirmations on my walls to remind me. Absolutely. Good idea, beloved. Okay, good idea. Aeon said, was anyone else losing connection? So, Miss Cookie says, Feng Shui uses the symbolic forms of decor, home, and office. Yes, absolutely, beloved. Absolutely does. Andrea says, hold on. Andrea says, Queen, I sent a super chat, but it's not showing. That's when I lost my connection. Okay, it may not have gone through, beloved. May not have gone through. But thank you. Orange Moon says, sends a super sticker. Thank you, beloved, for your super chat donation. Aeon said it keeps buffering. So if anyone else is having problems, try to go out and come back in. Okay, if you're losing connection, I don't know what's going on, but try to go out and come back in. Curly Girl said hers is okay. All right. So with that all being said, does anyone have any questions, comments, or snide remarks before I conclude the broadcast? I hope you all got something out of this. Basically, Christ consciousness is a higher awakening, a spiritual awakening. The activation of the pineal gland, raising your raising into your Christ-like self. learning about spiritual integration, okay, and actively participating in spiritual practices, not just thinking about them, not just jotting down notes. But Mr. Hotel said, not snide remarks. Yes. Terry Hinn said, Queen, I cash out you. Look, please. Okay, beloved. So, with that all being said, you're welcome, Curly Girl. Claudette said, very enlightening. Thank you, Queen. You're all welcome. Miss Hotel said, I enjoyed this, Queen. Thank you. You're welcome, beloved. Thank you, Terry, for your Cash App donation, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Okay. Laverne said, thanks for the knowledge. Working at it. Absolutely. And this is the thing. Andrea said, Queen, I asked the question earlier. Oh, you did? Beloved, I don't know if I saw your question. Beloved. And y'all said, thanks, Queen, I value. Well, thank you, beloved. Nessa G says, snide remarks. Thank you, Queen. You're welcome, beloved. So listen, I hope you all got something out of this. Just make sure that you're being mindful of how you, of the thoughts that you think. If you find yourself thinking about something negative and just dwelling on it, if you find yourself constantly worrying or fearful of things, try to work on that and make sure you keep your vibrations high, okay? Remember that worry, fear, anger, all of those are low vibrational things. Try to stay away from those, okay? Because you put yourself in a metaphorical hell when you stay on that frequency. Try to rise into a higher frequency, okay? And try to make sure that you remember your positive self-talk. It's very important that you do this. Speak positively to your loved ones, especially your children. They're very impressionable, okay? And talk to them about the things, that you get from this channel. It's not too soon. Love you to life, Queen. So many gems. Thank you, Juju, beloved. I love you right back. Now, make sure that you talk to children about these things because children understand a lot. And you can, break it down to them. You can make it more simple rather than complex so that you can break it down to them so they understand. All you have to do is tell children, speak positively, okay? Don't talk bad about yourself. Don't try to make other people feel bad. Try to make other people feel good. Try to say things that make you feel good about yourself. Don't worry about people that say negative things about you because you know who you are. These are all positive reinforcement things for you to say to your children and grandchildren. Okay, so they have high self-esteem, not low self-esteem, and remind them that it's not important what other people say about you so much as it is what you say about yourself and what you think about yourself. Okay? Because if you don't love and respect and admire and appreciate yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? Tell your children these things because it's important that they need to know. Sharon says, spiritual food for the grandkids. Absolutely. Laverne said, love your earrings. Thank you, beloved. Ayon said, I was telling my daughter about metacognition. Okay, great. So with that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember to keep the Most High first in your lives. Now, on a side note, I will be premiering another video. You all have likely seen it because it's going to be a replay, okay, for the ones who are non-members. But I think I'm going to repost that video about the birthday song, the ritual involved in and I'm not talking about a spiritual ritual. I'm talking about a nefarious ritual that's that people do every time they sing that birthday song, okay, on someone's birthday. So with that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.